Carol Wilkerson on Camano Island, and I have recently heard that there is a possibility that the Blue Building, our multi-purpose center here on Camano, is possibly going to be turned into sheriff offices, and I'm very concerned about the loss of that building. That is the only building on Camano Island where the community can have large get-togethers at a reasonable and affordable price. The senior center, it's over $1,000 to rent it, and the fire stations, they are not big enough, and so I'm very concerned about that, and just am hoping that's not the case, that we're going to lose it.
Can I just address the folks on Camano about the Blue Building?
Of course.
Yeah, it's at a point where it's going to require some maintenance to be able to continue to use it for whatever purpose it is going to continue to be used for, if that is going to be what it's going to happen with it. So we are weighing all options to find out what the best decision would be for the best use for it.
I would just comment, we did talk a little bit about that a while ago as far as what to do with the Blue Building, because the sheriffs did express an interest in occupying it, and it's my understanding that Commissioner Emerson was going to do some outreach to the community members to see what their thoughts were. We did inquire about that again recently. I was over on Camano last 2 weeks visiting folks, and I've heard a lot of people commenting on it at several different functions that I've been at, and somebody did indicate that there was tape on the floor that was delineating different office spaces and was concerned. So it's not my understanding that we've moved ahead with looking at using it for deputies. It was just a topic of discussion, so I'm hoping that outreach will occur and that we'll get some feedback from the community before we make a decision on that.
Yeah, we certainly need to have all the options there. I mean, there's no reason for us to be making decisions based on, just an idea or two. We need to have all options in place when we're looking at investing the taxpayers' money for the maintenance of the ongoing maintenance of the building.
Well, we have to maintain it one way or another. So I'm hoping whether we're occupying it for sheriff's deputies or whether we're occupying it for the community and other functions, and the Citizens Watch do occupy a space in it. So one way or another, it's a piece of property that we own that would need maintenance. So.
Well, I guess it would make sense for us to be expecting some sort of a report from Dan Shirk about what the necessary maintenance items are and the costs associated with them. I know he breached that broadly with us at a work session, but we really haven't reviewed any specifics yet.
No, that is the case, and that he has some changes to the initial one that he had brought up with us some time back, but we were just looking for all the options for available use. And I appreciate you, other district, you would-be island commissioners, being so concerned about what that does happen to that building on the Camano district. But, I will certainly weigh all the ideas and bring them forward for us.
Well, I just hope that we're not identifying spaces before we got to that place in the decision.
Understood.
Joyce Leak, 747 Telecomoy, Camano Island, and I've seen and heard rumors about the use of the Blue Camano building, and my question is, I would like to know if you've looked at the use of that building, because it's constantly being used, about changing it over for other county uses.
That's at a point where it's requiring some maintenance, and so we're looking at all the options as to how to best use that building. There have been other departments that have asked to maybe be considered for using that building, and so we're just trying to evaluate all the options.
My second question is, I just wondered what the status is on community input and meetings regarding the Camano Center Blue Building here on Camano.
We have not made any progress on that just yet. We need to find out what all of our possibilities are before exploring that. So we're still in the process.
Is it possible for folks to get an update, maybe?
There's nothing to update as of yet. As a matter of fact, I believe that's on our agenda for this Wednesday to discuss that to some degree.
Thank you.
This is Carol Wilkerson.
Okay.
I did ask this morning in regards to the blue building, but my concern there too is how, if we've already deemed that it definitely needs repair, will that be included somewhere in the 2013 budget?
Our facilities manager is trying to take care of all the buildings and the carpet and the furniture and everything else. So as things start to fall apart, we're looking at how to take care of them. And so the blue building is one of those buildings. But what's triggered this really was that we have some deputies over on Camano Island in a trailer that were looking for some kind of some comfort because they're struggling with their heating and cooling and so forth, and they were trying to find some place that might be more suitable, and they were looking at the blue building, and I think coincidentally the blue building needs some maintenance. So there's no done deal on it, and we really just haven't but scratched the surface. So. And I know the deputies did go over and take a look and put some tape on the floor and lay out the spaces to see if it would work, and they didn't take the tape off, but there was no guarantee that that was something moving forward. We're still going to have to maintain the building one way or another. If the roof leaks, which it does, and the toilet has a problem, so.
I mean, in the past, whenever there's been a capital project, something where you're really going to go in and renovate a building, the board has been presented with options. And that also applies to what happens with the current modular that the deputies are in.
And they're not even sure that that would work out for them. I mean, they, when they initially brought it up, they hadn't really looked into whether they thought it would even be a viable option for them. But that, it made sense to go ahead and look at all the options before.
The sheriff said they did look at the fire station over there. Chief Gantz suggested maybe they rent space there, but it was fairly expensive, so I'm not sure that would work. But it's dry, warm, close to another emergency service, so they're just looking at all the choices. But we recognize from the feedback from the community that they value the blue building. It's affordable to have public meetings there, and that the options weren't so affordable, whether they be the senior center or other places, the library and so forth, that it would be difficult to meet the price that you're getting at the blue building. So we acknowledge that.
The next item at 2:15, so we might want to just skip ahead to the Camano feasibility study. You have that. Was that yours, Commissioner Emerson?
Yeah, I'd be glad to give that one a shot. No pun intended. I think, I don't know, Elaine, do you want to come up and kind of go through this one with me? I've kind of been working with Elaine a little bit on this. It's just, I want to get an idea of what we could do with the campus over on Camano. Many years ago, of course, there was big plans for it. Blueprints are still over in the office over there. That's not going to happen for decades, probably, at least a decade and a half or something anyway, probably more. So I would like to for us to consider, especially since we have an anchor tenant in our building there, our health building, to consider some revitalization for that campus. And I think it would be helpful for the annex over there as well, because they are so far pushed to the side on the campus and behind a big blue building that we can tend to be people can tend to be a little less civil when they come in. I think that it might help if that was a little more open and out in the open period. And the fact that the blue building there is needs to have some revitalization as well. And as you very well know, it's been tossed back and forth about maybe moving the sheriff over into that area, which I think would once again help out at the annex and the whole island, as a matter of fact, because people going by that, we only have the loop on Camano. Most people go by that, and I think it would help to show some presence of the sheriff there. So it's something that I wanted to pursue with this feasibility study, and at the same time, and I was talking to Tom Riggs about this when we were at the Camas State Beach the other night, I'm hoping that with this feasibility study we can come up with something that is relatively inexpensive that can still provide the community that gathering point that they need, and actually hopefully have them using the fields and things a bit more. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of this. Do you want to add anything to?
I do know that as part of my conversations with Skagit Valley Hospital, and I think they expressed this concern when they were here discussing the improvements to the Family Resource Center that are in the works, that they would like some kind of campus beautification project to make that whole campus more inviting, to increase the flow of people back to the Family Resource Center. So it's an opportunity to look at the campus as a whole. Commissioner Emerson asked me how the county might go about engaging a study, and it depends on the level of study that the board decides to pursue. It could be as simple as an in-house, if it's a very small project in-house, we might be able to do some of it. But if you're really going to look at the campus as a whole, it may require going out for some A&E contracting. I was hopeful that Bill Oakes would be here, and I don't believe I see him because you're running a little bit early.
I think we were kind of tossing around maybe a not to exceed $5,000 would maybe be able to get us the idea from an engineer if the blue building if it was going to be able to withstand to be able to provide not just the area that the sheriff would need, but the structure that would be needed there, and provided we have the ability with that. There's also the shed area along the back there that we'd want to preserve. But not the blue building, not the green building in between.
Well, the
old Public Works one.
We do have things stored in there. I know the sheriff has some things stored in there. Facilities has things stored in there, and I believe WSU uses that building. So I would agree with Commissioner Emerson that at one point, the county did plan to redo the annex as a whole, and we don't have the money available for us to do it. So it may be time to sort of scale back and look at what the future is. I do know that property management has received quite a few calls with citizens expressing concern about not having a facility, the multi-purpose facility, available to different groups because I believe if it's not the only one, it's probably one of few that
is free. But there is the Snow Isle Library that is free to community events as well, that's just right up the road and we all pay into, and there's a lot of other things on Camano. And let me reiterate that is an idea to hopefully come out of this feasibility study, that we would be able to do something along the lines of the reason I was having the conversation with Tom Riggs, along the lines of maybe like a kitchen shelter, or as they call it in Louisiana, an outdoor kitchen. That's something that could facilitate the community there, and I think that if it were more open than as is the blue building, that it might invite more activity down there, where we have right now a big field back there, a softball field that I never see anybody on, and I think it would maybe just make that a little more homey. I also think that when we begin to see a recovery, if we ever do in the near future, that it's very probable that Camano Island would be able to lead that, because of the fact that we are a commuter island and there is living wage jobs more plentiful in the mainland in that area. And so I could see people taking advantage of the real estate over there while they have the opportunity of a down economy. And I think that this would be a little bit more inviting. It would, as people come on and they go through all of that, if it looked better, if there was a revitalization effort there, I think that it would be more inviting to be able to allow us to prosper a little bit more in that manner. So I was hoping that I could get your support for a not to exceed $5,000 go out for an RFP for a feasibility study.
Okay. From which account were you suggesting?
We do have some, a line item in our real estate excise tax budget that it's a to-be determined line item that we've used in the past for unforeseen projects.
And how much is in that line?
I believe it's about 50,000.
For this year,
Yep.
in this year's budget? So would this be an allocation for the 2012 budget?
I doubt if,
2013?
for 2013, we have a similar line item in the budget for unforeseen expenditures.
Well, I think the idea of trying to revitalize something on Camano Island is a great idea for the community. However, I think it's concerning about the money to be spent. I mean, to spend the $5,000 on a feasibility study to see what we would then spend the money on to revitalize, the reality is we're really challenged with finding the money. I mean, we just had our assessor here desperate to get caught up on segs that we need another staff person for, which is hugely impacting our taxpayers. So, and I mean, I care deeply about what's happening on Camano. I contributed $2,500 to the Parks Department to try to help that out, which $1,000 some odd dollars were spent on the tennis courts to try to fix that. But we just really don't have a lot of funds. So I think what started out with taking a look at a community building to see if we could revamp it and make some space for some deputies, it has grown into something very different is what I'm hearing, which is concerning to me. So I'm not really supportive of spending a lot of money on something that would mean spending more money. I think we want to look and see how to accommodate the need for the deputies, but I heard a lot of outreach from Camano citizens that they were concerned about losing their public facilities. So whatever feasibility, whatever study goes forward, I strongly encourage us to really listen to what the citizens are asking for and try to find a compromise that works for everyone.
Well, I see most of those buildings there as needing some maintenance, and so this is a way of kind of combining that effort. It would be out of REIT funds, so it would not, to me that seems abundantly obvious, and so it wouldn't be coming out of current expense, which is what the treasurers would come out of. So it's, to me, it's something that needs to be done in order to keep those buildings existing. There would have to be maintenance done on that building if we kept it for free meetings for the public. And frankly, I think that we would not really be able to do that. I think that we would have to start charging for those meetings in there if we were going to be able, if we were going to have to spend on maintaining it. So.
Well, actually, they do pay. I mean, I used that facility. I paid $50 to be able to use it. So there is some fee.
For a political event, for the community events, they do not.
So we know we need a roof on it. So I'm thinking, do we need to do a feasibility study to see what it is we might be able to do to spend money on, or should we use the $5,000 to fix the leaky roof? Because whoever goes in there's going to... I'm just concerned about spending money on a feasibility study to figure out what it is we need to spend money on. And you've expressed yourself great concern about using REIT dollars, and so now we're using REIT dollars to do a feasibility study. So that's my thoughts. I'm not
for something that I see is extremely necessary, and especially the timing to align with our anchor tenant in the one building that we were already not sure we were going to be able to keep the doors open because it just wasn't working out there. So, you know, it just seems to me the absolute optimum time to be able to get in there and do it.
I actually agree with you on this. I think that we have a number of challenges on Camano that have come forward as we've reduced our staffing in the annex, and the challenges of having separate areas for the planning department and health department versus the commissioner's department. I think if we're going to hire somebody to look at the services being provided on Camano Island, I think we need to have it be all-encompassing and not just focused on where the sheriff should be located. And I hope what I'm understanding is that that's what you're describing. So I do think that providing public space is an important piece of that. Certainly that's where most of the comments that I've received have been generated. But if we have capacity to take a look at that, folks on Camano have been waiting a long time to, they had expectations raised 5 or 6 years ago that something pretty dramatic was going to help with those temporary buildings. you can only continue to keep those together with Band-Aids for so long. I think it is good to get a comprehensive look so we can at least create a plan. It might be certainly a multi-year plan to execute it, but we would at least have a renewed plan that is a more reasonable cost than the one that was proposed a number of years back.
I just hope that in the feasibility study there's a lot of components in there for what the public would like to see. So if we're going to look at it comprehensively for the campus, then we need to make sure they're heard, because they keep coming back and asking over and over again and expressing their concerns. So that would be very important.
Yeah.
I think I got support.
I think you did, and I'll relay this conversation on to Bill Oakes, and we'll get with you, Commissioner Emerson, to develop an action plan.
I do like the outside idea about the, what did you call the community meals?
Yeah.
Kitchen shelter, outdoor kitchen.
I've actually seen kids a number of times having games out there, so I know it gets used.
Not much, unfortunately.